How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and to another year at EGX London, this being the second year that I've had the pleasure of attending, and in today's video I'm going to be talking a little bit about my experience in comparison to last year's event, giving you a bit of an overview of what there was to see and do, and also talking a little bit about some of the games I played and what for me looked like some of the most interesting and exciting ones that are either upcoming or already out. And although this is a Switch channel, some of these games may or may not be coming to the platform, as a lot of them are still in development and the teams showcasing them were unable to either deny or confirm this for me. So I'll start by saying that, like last year, I had intended to do a bit of a live walk around and showcase the areas at the event, and I even went ahead and bought a little Bluetooth microphone. However, unfortunately, the quality of this microphone was absolute shite, so I didn't end up doing much talking. But let's start by talking about the event itself. Now, if you've never heard of EGX, it's basically the UK's largest gaming convention or trade fair for video games, and it's usually held annually in both the UK and Germany, with the UK having two events, one in Birmingham and a larger one in London. This London event runs for 4 days and draws a whole host of exhibitors from all across the gaming industry, including developers, both big and small, publishers, content creators, merchants and industry experts. And it's essentially just a huge event where the public can come and play some awesome games, attend some panels to get an insight into the industry and a behind the scenes look at some of the games and developers, partake in some competitions, meet some of the favourite content creators, and generally just meet up with other gaming lovers from around the world. And the tickets are pretty cheap, starting at 22 quid for a single day, up to 75 quid for a super pass, which gets you into all 4 days, and also comes with a bunch of EGX goodies to take home. Now, last year's event was a little touch and go because of COVID, and it wasn't even certain that it was going ahead until a couple of months before, so I'd definitely say that it felt a little quieter and smaller in comparison to this year's event. As with last year, I attended on the Friday and Saturday, and the crowds were definitely bigger this time around, and there was also a larger number of exhibitors attending, which generally just made it feel like a much bigger event. Now, in terms of what there was to do there, comparing last year's map to this year's, as you can see they've packed a ton more stuff into the event, but there were a lot of returning features. To start with, the Res Zone was back, which is home to all of the indie developers and publishers, but it was about twice the size of last year, and this is where you can get hands-on with a huge assortment of indie games. You had the likes of P-Cube making a return, Fireshine Games were there, and a ton of smaller studios and publishers, with a lot of these titles still being in development, so it's a place to play some soon-to-be-released titles. And the Letfield collection next to this has all the really small solo dev projects on show, so it's a great place for them to get some exposure. In terms of the bigger titles at the show, it's not like E3 or PAX, so you don't have dedicated stands for the big three, but this year you had the likes of Sega with the new Sonic Frontiers game, Team Ninja's Wolong Fallen Dynasty, House Flipper 2 and the new Call of Duty, and of course the Steam Deck also made an appearance. But as expected, unfortunately these things all had huge queues for them, and depending on how long the play sessions were, you could be waiting in line for over an hour, so that's just something to bear in mind if you're looking to try out some of the more AAA titles. Now, if you're not really that bothered about playing new or upcoming releases, there's still a ton of stuff to do, and I spent quite a lot of time in the retro zone just playing some blasts from the past, and I actually ended up having a Super Puzzle Fighter battle against this dude who put up a good fight, but I ultimately smashed to pieces. So it's a great place to just meet new people and socialise. If you're a fan of arcade games, there's also the EGX Arcade, which has an awesome selection of classic arcade machines for you to play with. There's also a PC LAN zone where you can do some competitive gaming, and if you're a huge geek like me, the tabletop zone is a massive area dedicated to all kinds of boards and card games, and I had a lot of fun just watching people play these, and even sat in on a live D&D event, which was a really good laugh. Aside from all the games you can play though, there are also plenty of panels for you to just sit in on, and I didn't end up watching any of them this year, but these are a great way to learn a bit more about the industry if it's something you're looking at getting into, perhaps as a career or even just as a hobby. When I took a wander over, there was some guy talking about content creation and about recommended equipment and software. There were also some influencers talking about their experiences, and as well as the panels, there's also a huge career fair where you can just go and speak to people and get info on things like university courses, or ask questions to some big companies like Rebellion, who created the Sniper Elite series. But even if you're not after any info, there are still plenty of panels where you can just go and watch some influencers play some games or get a bit of a behind the scenes look at some well-known titles, and they're a great way to just sit down and chill for a bit. So what else? Well, once again this year there were a number of different tournaments you could enter into to win some cash prizes and goodies, and I'm far too shit at any of the games featured to actually enter into them, but you had the likes of Rocket League, which seems to be a favourite at EGX, as well as Street Fighter V making a return, and this year there was also a Valorant tournament on with a grand up for grabs, so if you're decent at any of these games it's well worth bringing a team along, and it's all done on stage in front of a live audience with a commentator going at it, so it's pretty cool and kind of gives you a chance to experience the whole esports thing. Aside from this, there's also a whole bunch of merch on offer at the event. There is of course some big brand names there trying to flog the wares with the likes of ROG, Asus and Lenovo, but the retail zone was absolutely massive this year with people selling all kinds of geeky shit, and you'll find the usual stuff like collectible figurines, t-shirts, cards and a ton of different artists, as well as some more niche vendors selling handcrafted goods, so plenty of opportunities to spend some cash. As I said last year, I feel like a couple of days at the event is all you need to experience most of what it has to offer. However, the queues were bigger this year, meaning you're going to spend more time in line for stuff, so I'd recommend coming on either the Thursday or the Friday as the weekend draws the largest audience. But again, the panels are different every day, so if you're looking at attending in the future, be sure to check out the event schedule beforehand and plan accordingly. Other than the scale, I wouldn't say that my experience was too dissimilar from last year. There wasn't a huge change to most of the features, but I enjoyed myself nonetheless. I had a good time playing the games and chatting with the publishers, and just generally soaking up the atmosphere of it all. Now, to round off this video, I just want to talk about some of the titles that I'm most excited about, and there were some fantastic games at the event, but to start with, the first of these was an awesome little party game called Unspotable, which actually released last year on Switch and I somehow managed to miss on my top party games list. But basically everyone plays as identical looking robots and you have to first identify yourself before working on spotting other players and then punching them, and there are all kinds of unique scenarios in levels to keep things interesting. There was also another party game called Poltergeist, which the dev described as Mario Kart without the driving, and this is one which has you running away from a ghost while using power-ups to hinder your opponents with a sort of last man standing wins kind of format. If you're one for the cutesy and wholesome, then Hamster Playground is sickeningly cute, and it sees you playing as hamsters and competing in mini-games with them, earning diamonds to decorate your little hamster house with. Or alternatively, for something super chill, there was also a game called Tiny Bookshop, which was described as being a lo-fi management sim where you open a mobile bookshop, travel around a seaside town and listen to what the locals have to say. And both games are out on Steam Early Access, but no words yet of them coming to the Switch. Now, of the more mainstream, I'm really looking forward to Goat Simulator 3 and House Flipper 2, and I'm definitely going to have to do a live stream of the first House Flipper at some point, but perhaps the one game that I'm most excited to play is one called Shadow of Doubt, which is being published by Fireshine Games and is aiming for a 2023 release on PC and potentially consoles. And this one is a detective game set in a voxel world where the inhabitants and entire city is procedurally generated. It's your job to investigate and piece together the clues you find in order to solve crimes and murders. But the real cool thing is that each person has their own profile and backstory, a link to other people in the city, having things like jobs and daily routines, and how you gather information is entirely up to you. Do you smooth talk them and convince them to give up info freely, break into the workplace after hours and rummage through the documents and CCTV footage, or sneak into their flat through the ventilation system? It's a really cool concept with a lot of potential, and hopefully we see a console release at some point next year. So that was my experience at EGX London 2022. I did stay for the After Hours event where you can continue playing games for a few hours and have a few beers, got a little drunk and had a 35-minute walk to my hotel, but that's a story for another day. Hopefully though you found this video interesting or helpful and now know what to expect from the event, and if you're considering going next year, I'll hopefully see some of you there and get to share a beer or three with you. For now though, as always, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more Switch related content. Thanks once again for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves and game on.